Now, as you may have guessed, I spend a fair amount of my own money on clothing, and therefore looking after, preserving, or extending the lifespan of those items is just essential to me. I'm really not looking to spend hundreds of pounds every month to replace pieces that have been ruined due to my negligence. Not only because frankly I just don't want to spend the money, but it takes me a lot of time and a lot of energy to find those pieces that I love and fit into my style in the first place. So today I want to give you guys some amazing tips or just general good practices that I use to care for and extend the lifespan of my own much loved clothing. Not only will these tips help your clothes look better, but also help you save a lot of hard-earned money in the long run. As always, anything I'm wearing or any little gadgets I talk about will be linked in the description. And if you enjoy or find this video helpful, drop it a thumbs up and subscribe too for more great men's fashion videos. Right, let's begin. Tip 1. Should you hang or fold your clothes when storing? All these tips I'm talking about today are important, but this one is super important because you can actually damage or misshape the clothes if you do it wrong. One of the most frustrating things I see when I walk into shops is when they've got knitwear hung up on hangers. It drives me crazy to the point where if I see something that's hung up and I actually want to purchase it, I will always ask for one for their storeroom and just generally go over it and just check that it's not misshapen. Loosely knitted garments like this should always be rolled up or folded neatly. Rolling is something I've only really started doing recently. This guarantees a safe way to store them, but also means, unlike folding, you'll only have to deal with very small creases, and that's nothing that a quick steam can't fix. Please do not hang your knitwear or any loosely knit garments on any hanger. You'll end up getting these shoulder nipples which will just misshape the piece and over time will cause stress and permanently stretch and damage your clothes. Another tip is to never hang your outerwear with the little hang tag that they actually come with. I know this is kind of counterintuitive, but back when clothing was actually made well as standard, you definitely could. But nowadays, having all that weight and stress on one little seam that most likely isn't bar tacked or stitched on super well could cause it to break over time. Always hang those pieces on some decent quality hangers, which is what I want to talk about next. Tip 2, get some decent quality hangers. If there's one thing I would say that is best going to be invested in to prolong the life of your garments, it is some good quality, solid wooden hangers. Hangers like the thin wire ones you sometimes get from dry cleaners are super damaging to your heavy clothes. The entire weight of the garment is focused on this really small surface area, and it probably is doing more damage than you realize. Basically, any heavier garments like jackets, overcoats, things like that, I like to hang on thick wooden hangers, sometimes doubling or even tripling them up just to give it as much surface area as possible to distribute out that way. And whilst you're at it, make sure to zip or button up your jackets. This just helps keep the silhouette of the garment as true as possible and will generally help with any creasing if you have a particularly packed clothing rail like my one. Anything lighter weight like t-shirts or shirts, I actually prefer to hang on wooden hangers. I just find it's the best way to retain the shape rather than folding them, and at most it just means they'll need a light steam whenever I want to wear them. A huge tip I have to mention here to keep your tee's neckline nice and clean is to never ever stretch the neckline over the hang. This will almost instantly ruin the neckline no matter how reinforced it is with bounding or whatever. This is really the main reason why so many of your tees probably are baconing up at the neck. I prefer my legwear also to get hung over the middle pieces of a hanger. With this, you'll never have to worry about any awkward creasing around the knees again. For my smarter trousers, these always go on clip hangers if I can, but for the majority of the time, I find that hanging them up just like my other pants is absolutely fine. I spend so much of my life ironing or steaming the creases out of the knees of my jeans. Trust me, hanging your legwear like this is just far easier in every conceivable way. Tip 3, grab some shoe trees. Shoe trees essentially provide the same function for your shoes as hangers provide for your clothes. It just allows them to retain their shape whilst not being worn, meaning they'll crease a lot less dramatically, allowing you to keep them looking newer for longer. I'd really recommend buying yourself some shoe trees for anything apart from your absolute deadest beater pairs. If you're like me and you're a bit of a stickler for keeping your shoes looking as new as possible, then shoe trees, I have to say, are a great investment I've made. For years, I just had these simple ones from IKEA, and they work really well lessening the creases on your toe box and just keeping the general silhouette of the shoe looking nice. If you really want to go above and beyond and extend the lifespan of your nice shoes, I definitely recommend to invest in some wooden shoe trees. Wood is naturally moisture attracting and absorbs a lot of the bacteria and a lot of the odor, and the fuller, wider shape of these wooden shoe trees means the shoe is not only kept straight lengthwise, but also widthwise too for a truer fit. Tip 4, learn to iron/steam your clothes. Now I have to say I very rarely iron my clothes, if ever. I find it requires 3 things: a lot of patience, a lot of technique, and a lot of time. And at the moment, I don't know about you guys, but I just don't have any of those. Investing in a steamer will just change the game for you if you hate creasing, but you also hate ironing. It's so much simpler and faster. Not saying ironing is bad in itself, it definitely has its place. But I think if you're repeatedly rubbing a super hot piece of metal over your clothing, eventually it is going to damage it in some some capacity. The only time I really use an iron nowadays is if I want to refresh a pleat in my trousers, or if I want to place a center crease in my smart trousers for a formal event. If you just want to quickly and easily remove wrinkles, steamers will cover you for 99% of the time. And bonus tip here, I would definitely say to invest in one that you can put in a suitcase. If you're traveling, some hotels don't offer irons or steamers, and if you pull something out of a case and it's really wrinkled, they'll quite often charge you an extra fee to do so. So if you can, grab a small one and just take it with you. Tip 5. Avoid stains at all costs. Whenever I go out to dinner or whenever I'm eating, chucking food down myself seems to just be my party trick. Nearly every time, no matter how careful I am, it always just seems to happen. And thus, I am super critical what I wear when I go out to eat nowadays. I know it's a great feeling to wear that brand new knit or that brand new cool jacket you just got for an event you've got coming up, but I can tell you from experience, filling any food down it or just marking it with stains can quickly ruin the day for you. I typically err on the side of caution and only really wear something that I'm okay with staining that I can easily wash, or I'll simply wear darker tones just so they won't show any stains as clearly. Frankly, I've had too many incidents at this point and I'm sick of it. Tip 6. Invest in a fabric shaver and a lint roller. Now, if you're like me and you hate any little pieces of fluff or pill on your clothing, this combination is a game changer. A lot of you guys out there probably have a lint roller, which is very good. I'm very proud of you. They're perfect for removing any of those pesky little pieces of hair or fluff that come with wearing certain clothes, particularly if you like to wear a lot of black. I always make sure to have a look just before I leave my apartment, and if it's really noticeable, I'll just give myself a once over with a lint roller. But if you really want to keep your garments looking brand new, particularly your knits, a fabric shaver is a must. These little tools just remove any loose fibers or any pilling on your clothing. Pilling, if you don't know, is those little fabric balls you sometimes see on knits. These are caused by friction, say when you're walking and you brush your arms against your body, and it can very quickly make your clothing look old and tired. This here is one of my favorite jumpers from Finisterre. By far one of the coziest jumpers I own, but sadly it peels very easily. Typically around this time of year, as we head into the colder months, I like to give all of my knits that I think have peeled a little bit too much just a quick once over with my fabric shaver. And it might sound like I'm exaggerating here, but honestly it looks brand new. Now, teeny tiny little disclaimer here, definitely do not be doing this once a week or even once a month. What a lot of people don't tell you about fabric shavers is that you're actually removing fabric from your jumper. And repeated use, similar to an iron, can eventually damage your clothing. Each time you use a fabric shaver, the fabric will become very slightly thinner and it could more easily lose its shape and will retain slightly less heat. So just be mindful of that. Like I said, fabric shaving once a year at the beginning of autumn works great for me. I've had this knit about 4 years now and I've shaved it probably about 4 or 5 times and it's still very heavyweight and plenty warm. Tip 7 is to go to a tailor. About this time every year, I like to take a really good look at my wardrobe and really consider what I'm loving and maybe what I'm falling out of love with to either donate or to sell. But another way I like to go about this wardrobe review is to consider whether I can take anything to a tailor to be altered so that it just aligns more with my current style. Being as vertically challenged as I am very familiar with going to a tailor. Growing up, it was pretty rare for me to actually get a pair of trousers and not take them to the tailor to be taken up a bit, simply because there seem to be no brands that produce trousers as short as I like them for my height. Let me say this, the confidence of wearing something, whatever it may be, that fits you absolutely perfectly as you want it to is just completely unmatched. And the whole process in itself, as someone who's into clothing and how it's made, is pretty valuable and pretty interesting. With the tailor, my main tip would always be to take off less than you actually think you need. Just because more length can always be taken off later down the line, but it can never be added on. Something I found out the hard way myself at the barbers a few times over the years. Another quick tip I just want to say, if you like to cuff your pants, say to show off some selvage ID, but they are a little bit too long, always take them to the tailor so you can have them taken up so you can cuff them neatly. No massive or super thick cuffs where you've had to roll them up like 3 or 4 times. That always just looks a little bit sloppy in my mind. To get those super clean cuts, I always like to keep them between 1 and 2 inches in thickness and never cup them more than twice. If you're beyond those parameters, I would highly recommend taking them to a tailor. Tip 8 is to really experiment with your wardrobe rather than buying new items. Everyone, I think at some point, comes to a bit of a rut with their style. This happens, I think, because of fatigue. Every influencer, including me sometimes, reaches as a baseline to purchase those timeless and very classic items. But in my experience, as someone who has a wardrobe full of curated, incredibly well-made, versatile pieces, doesn't mean you won't wake up one day and just feel a little bit bored of them. Don't immediately go out and buy new clothes or throw out the old ones or sell them. Here, I always like to experiment with new combinations that I might not necessarily have considered, just to try and breathe some life into items that are kind of mentally written off. And the easiest way to do that, in my experience, is to just switch up the footwear that you typically wear in that outfit. For some reason, footwear, whilst taking up the smallest amount of outfit real estate, has such a huge effect on the final outfit. By swapping out the footwear, it really can just be the switch needed in your head to get you thinking of new and interesting combinations with the clothes you already have. Say if you're a big sneaker guy, put those same outfits together that you love and just swap those sneakers for a smarter pair of leather footwear. And vice versa, if you're a big leather footwear guy, maybe go for something a bit more relaxed and chuck on a pair of casual sneakers. You'll quite often hear this idea called the wrong shoe theory, and genuinely I do think it can be a valuable way of changing up your style to extend the life of your clothing and definitely save you some money rather than purchasing something new. Tip 9, know when to wash your clothes. When I was younger, I would wear something once and just immediately put it in the washing basket for the weekly wash, regardless of whether it actually needed washing. If you have good hygiene, you shower every day, you wear deodorant, and you're not absolutely sweating buckets at the office, most of them do not have to be washed after just one wear. Now, before I see the comments like, "Ooh, Ryan doesn't wash his clothes, that's gross, you must smell," or whatever, there is a little bit of grey hair here. Fair enough, if it's a base layer like a tee or an undershirt and it genuinely smells, then obviously put that in the wash. Or if something has a big visible stain down it. Say you wore a hoodie out for 2 hours just for a meal and it has a small fleck of food on it. For me, the entire thing definitely doesn't need washing. It's just that small stain that needs removing. I would personally just spot wash the area and then just give it an airing outside. The spot wash will likely remove the stain, and the airing will give the clothing a little refresh, just removing any light odor. If after the stain is still there, or it still smells, or I simply want to wash it for hygiene reasons, okay, then I will chuck it in. But like I said, most of your clothes definitely do not need to be washed after just one wear. This will save you so much time and so much money in the long run. Finally, number 10, know how to wash your clothing. Over the years, I've ruined so many clothes washing them incorrectly, either because the water was too warm or the spin was too high. I'm definitely not the all-knowing guru like I am when it comes to fashion, And this whole washing clothes thing could be a video in and of itself, but I have a few simple guidelines I like to follow, and I'll try and keep this brief. Firstly, I only wash clothes that are visibly stained on 30 degrees. And if I'm doing a general weekly wash purely for hygiene reasons, then I'll wash everything at 20. It's well known that the higher the heat of the water, the possibility of your clothes being negatively affected goes up. I've been using this simple format for years now, all throughout uni and all the years I've lived on my own, and I've never washed and dried my clothes and then put them back on and thought they weren't clean. Second tip is that I always remove my cottons from my delicates and make sure whites and colors are separated. The reason you want to separate cottons from other fabrics is because cottons can take a higher spin, whilst your delicates could possibly be damaged. And while colors is an obvious one, you don't want colors of any new items to run onto your crispy white shirts, tees, or socks. Like I mentioned, anything really delicate like wools, I like to spot wash these and just leave them to air dry. Straight up, I have never actually washed any of my wool knits you've seen on this channel. I think you'll agree they're still in pretty good condition. Definitely let me know some of the ways you guys have found to extend the life of your clothing. Is there a glaring tip that I've missed that you think needs to be heard? I'd love to hear your experience. With this video, I really hope you can take something from it and keep your garments looking fresh and looking new, and you're just able to wear and enjoy them for years to come. With all that being said though, if you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, make sure to drop a like down below and subscribe too. If you're after more fashion content from me, YouTube thinks you'll love this video here, so go and check it out. Thanks for watching. As always guys, I will see you in the video next week. See you then.